new program, A Year in the Garden, How to Grow Your Own, where we will teach you the basics of how to grow your own fruit and veg by showing you what we grow in our garden at home and what we grow at the community garden in Hans Bay. You might find it a bit strange that a gardening program is starting inside, but January is really the perfect time for planning, and that's what I'm doing right here. I've got a list of all my seeds, and I've got quite a few seeds this year, so I have to know when to grow what. And I would really recommend to all growers, whether you're a beginner or experienced, to take some time off in January or at the start of your growing year and to decide what to do. And here are some questions that I like to ask myself every year. Where are you going to grow your fruit and veg? And what do you want to grow? Is it something you like to eat, or is it something you've never tried before? Is what you're growing suitable to your climate and your conditions? And how much time and effort and money are you intending to spend, on growing fruit and veg? So do consider these questions, they are really important, and any gardening project, obviously should be fun, but it should be taken a bit seriously as well. During the rest of the episode, I will show you what I've been sowing at this time of the year, what projects I've been doing, and what can be harvested. So stay tuned. Hi everybody, it's early January here in one of the polytunnels, and this is quite an unusual time to actually sow seeds for the coming year. It's quite early really, and I normally wouldn't be doing it this early. But it's been quite an unusual year. It's been extremely mild lately. It's been quite wet too, but it's been so mild that I think I'm going to chance it and try to sow a few things that I have left over from last year and that I would really love to have an early crop. Now I'm going to plant all these very early sowings now in January in these modules, and the reason for that is I find it gives you a very good control of your conditions. So I'm gonna leave these in a polytunnel, so even if in a few weeks time maybe the weather's gonna change and it's gonna get colder, in the polytunnel there should be enough heat for the seeds and for the seedlings hopefully to develop properly. So I have a few things left over from last year. I've got some spring onions, some normal onions, some corn salad, some very early carrots, some spinach, which I would love to have early this year, and 2 varieties of lettuce, which also are early varieties. And then finally I've got some peas and some beans, all dwarf or bush varieties. So these are all very early crops anyway, and because the weather is so mild, so between 9 and 10 to 12 degrees even here, it should hopefully work. So I'm gonna show you a few bits and pieces how I'm sowing everything, and hopefully in a few weeks time everything will come good. I just finished sowing all my greens and my onions and my carrots, and now I'm gonna sow my peas. So I've been actually soaking these for a few hours in just lukewarm water to give them a head start really, because it's still not that warm outside. So just soaking them in lukewarm water should give them a head start hopefully, and I won't have to water these too much afterwards. And these are just some varieties of early bush peas and beans, which I really love and I think are fantastic to have as early as possible in the year, especially peas, or one of those crops I love to see as soon as possible every year, and just pick them, fresh and early off the plant and eat them raw. Another reason I'm using modules for this very early sowing is because there have been so little frost this year and it's been very mild and wet. The slugs are quite active already. I've actually already seen a few about. always one of my favorite parts really of gardening, because this is where it all starts. Actually, you know, you have your seed in your hand and you hope that in a few weeks or months time it will be a vigorous plant producing lots of food for you. Now I'm just going to water all these modules and then they will stay here, and hopefully no slugs and no cold and no damp will affect the plants too much. And these crops will entirely stay in the polytunnel for their whole life cycle, which is great because then it means we're going to have a really early crop. So I'm all done here for today, and well, we'll see each other again at the end of the month to see how well all my seeds have grown. So it's the end of January and it's a bit miserable, it's cold and it's wet, and there's not that much going on in the garden, but it's a perfect time for planning and for building things. And I'm almost finished with my big project of the year, building my raised beds. So there's so many reasons to have raised beds in your garden. They're really a fantastic resource, you know, to grow your fruit and veg in. My reasons primarily are because my soil is quite heavy, clay-based soil. It's a mineral-rich soil, but it's very compact, and it often gets waterlogged, like at the moment, you know. So I need a different type of soil, looser, and so raised bed is perfect for that because I can just put in whatever I want, and it raises the plants, you know, above ground level, so the roots won't get waterlogged. There are many different shapes and sizes of raised beds, and it can be just as simple as putting 4 boards together and making a square like this one. So it's really easy, and you can screw them together, you can nail them together, whatever works for you and your budget. And it's really not difficult to do at all. Like, everybody can do it. It's pretty much like assembling a puzzle. Also, with raised beds, it's a good idea to know where you source your materials from. I got second-hand wood. They're old scaffolding boards, which I got for £1 a piece. So I only spent £20 for all my raised beds, which is amazing. And they're also being reused, so you know, it's a bit like recycling, I guess. And yeah, it's just very sustainable, so that's great. And also it's important to know what kind of compost you're using. This is really good grade 1 compost that I got from an industrial site where they use all the kitchen waste and compostable waste from people's homes like here and make it into compost. So again, very green, very sustainable, and very cheap, for just 10 to 15 pounds for half a ton. So if you do your research well and you know where to get your materials, it can be very cheap. So whenever you're building raised beds and you've got grass, you know, you should really consider using some kind of mulch to kill that grass so it won't grow through your raised bed. And I'm just using cardboard. It's free, it's easy to use, you know, so and again, you know, it's very sustainable. You're just reusing something that otherwise would be thrown away. So it's very easy. You just put it down on the ground and then you put your compost over it and it's ready to use. It's really that simple. Raised beds are not only a really great practical solution for gardeners, and they're not only great, you know, to grow your veg, but they're also, you know, aesthetically pleasing. At least I find so, you know. And you should really take some time whenever you're making your raised beds so that they look nice. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it should look nice and should be a place where you'd like to spend time in. And a good example of this is this intersection here that I made. So I used just two spare parts of a board that I had, and I'm putting them together like this for 2 reasons really, so that I can nail these 2 boards together, so it's a practical solution, you know, but it also makes a very handy makeshift seat. So whenever it's ready and whenever it's summer and all my stuff is growing behind me, I can just sit down whenever I want to have a break and relax a bit. And that is part about what, you know, gardening is really about. So I hope this wee introduction into raised beds has inspired you maybe to build some raised beds in your garden, or to find out more about raised beds. They really are a fantastic resource, you know, and I hope you give it a go, and I hope you appreciate them as much as I do. Now there's not that much really to harvest in January, you know, there's really only some leafy stuff that you can grow indoors, like in this greenhouse, or you know, some roots that are still in the ground. And I still have some beetroot left here, so I'm going to harvest these and I'm going to make a lovely pasta dish with them. So I've cut up our beetroot and I separated the leaves, the good fresh leaves from the beetroot, and I'm going to blanch these and use them as a pesto. And just the beetroot themselves, I just took the nicest ones and sliced them finely, and I'm going to use those as a garnish to make a really nice pasta. So I just blanched my leaves and put in 2 cloves of garlic as well. And now I'm just going to add them to the food processor, some feta cheese and some nuts and some oil, and hey presto, you've got pesto! Let's have a look. Yep, beautiful pesto. So here's our finished dish. It's really beautiful and fresh. You know, and all this from my garden at the end of January, you know, so even in the darker months, you know, when it's all grey and wet, you can really make something beautiful with your homemade veg. So here we are back at the end of January, and my seeds are just beginning to sprout. So you can see here, it's all a bit slow, but then it got quite cold during the rest of the month, so that's just normal. There's a few peas coming out here, there, and some beans over here, and some carrots there. So all in all, it's not too bad, and you'll have to stay tuned for next month to see how well these will grow. Thanks for watching.